This is how you shave off 60 days of your time to cash. So if you want to shorten the time to cash in your SaaS business, what you want to do is you want to lay out the beginning of your sales cycle until the time to cash on a timeline, and then you want to divide each step of the timeline into one of two things. One, process time, and two, dead time. So process time is things like the sales cycle, things that are there for a reason and that you can make more efficient, but you can't take it to zero. Dead time is things that you can and should take to zero. So let's say the time from they send the contract until you send the invoice. That should be 1 second or 2 minutes tops. It shouldn't be 2 days or a week. So these are examples of dead time. Take all of that, 180-day cycle or so, and you can probably shave off at least 60 days of positive cash flow by just removing dead time and just being a little bit more efficient with your process time. So you sell something. So this is where the customer says yes. Then a little bit of time passes, and then you send them a contract. And then you chase the signature, which then comes through, and then you have the kickoff with the onboarding. And then once onboarding is done, then you send an invoice, and everybody knows that invoices are paid after 30 or 60 or 90 or 100 days. So let's say that the total cycle length of this is 180 days. We want to identify which of these are process time and which of these are dead time. So you need process time. Dead time, you just want to remove completely. So you need a sales cycle. Could you make it shorter? Could you make it more efficient? Could you change your sales motion? Could you use partners? Yes, all of that, but you need a sales cycle. What about the time from they accept, let's say on email, until you send the contract? That is dead time. That needs to be 0. What about the time from contract to signature? Hopefully, you actually could get that to 0 as well. Let's say you can map it in here. So I would say that would be a 0 as well. From signature to booking a meeting, let's get that as 0 as well. From booking a meeting to kickoff, well, now it depends on what kind of model you do. But if you have this model, let's just do the version 1 first here. From booking the meeting to kickoff, well, that needs to happen. So this is process time. From kickoff to actual onboarding, do we have time here? Yes, but this is also process time. You can make it more efficient, but you can't remove it completely unless you change your model and deliver something else. From onboarding to invoice, we have dead time as well. That should be 0 minutes. From invoice to paid, presumably your customer needs some form of payment window, so this is process time as well. So it's just a really simple way to map out what's going on. What are all the time windows where you clear a gate and then something else can happen, and then something else can happen, and something else can happen. And what are these time spans? Are they to some extent useful, used for something, or are they just completely useless and you should just get rid of them? So the first thing that we can do is just get rid of all the blue ones. So you can say, well, we're going to have the sales cycle, and then we're going to do it so that whenever they say yes, we give them a contract and sign it in that meeting and then book the kickoff meeting. So we just eliminate all of these 3. So you go straight from a yes to they have signed and you book the meeting, and then we have a kickoff, and then once the onboarding is done, you just immediately send them the invoice, right? So the idea would be that you do immediately whatever you can to just kill all the dead time. Do not accept more than 5 minutes of dead time. So they say yes, I send the invoice while I'm in the call. Do you have the invoice in your inbox? Yes, okay, done, right? So that we're not doubting this over here. And if that means, oh, but finance sends the invoice, but it's the salesperson that has the call, that process you can solve if you actually want to have good cash flow. So just remove the dead time. Now we have the green ones left. Those are the process time. What can we do there? Well, you can change the process. You reduce process time in your cash flow cycle by changing the process. Can we change the way we do sales to speed it up? Yes, we can create a better sales cycle. We can say, well, instead of just letting the customer have their way with our sales, we can create a very structured process where we take them through a 100-day sales clarification process with all the different due diligence meetings and contract negotiations necessary, so that we close them in 100 days and not 120. You can set this, or we can have partners that actually only delivers very qualified leads to us, so that we offboard, let's say, 60 days of the sales cycles to a partner, so we only own the 60 remaining days, something like this. But you change the process. Now over here, from you book a meeting to we have the kickoff of the onboarding to the onboarding is done and we can invoice them. Can we do another process? Well, we can change the model and say, hey, the way we are going to do this is we're going to, let's say, invoice the onboarding upfront. And we're going to say something like, and we're also going to invoice the first year's license. We're just going to send the invoice here. So we're just going to treat this as that time by changing the model. Or maybe we're going to say, we're going to invoice you here. We have 30 days of payment. If the onboarding project is delayed, that is, you get to delay the payment. You can create a different sort of version of that argument that sort of suits your business. But you can reduce these significantly if you want to. Finally, for payment, sometimes you get to also reduce the payment period. So let's say if it's not a sales process, but it's just a renewal and the contract renews on January 1st, a lot of people actually send the invoice on January 1st and then give 30 days or 60 days payment. You can also send it on December 2nd, right, with 30 days payment. So payment is due within the new year for that calendar year and so forth. So you've just let them know 30 days in advance. And sometimes you can work this into your terms and conditions so that the invoicing period actually falls within the previous renewal cycle and not in the new renewal cycle to speed up cash flow. So process time you reduce by changing the process, by actually making new versions of what you're currently doing, but you cannot remove it completely. While dead time you just eliminate altogether by just collapsing it and just recognizing it as totally irrelevant and not value creating at all, not for you and not for the customer either.